Welcome to MarketPlay, the marketing podcast where we chat with small business owners and entrepreneurs all about what they do and how they got to where they are. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway, and we're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. So sit back and listen to our conversation as we chat all about business, and welcome to MarketPlay. Hello, I'm Meryl Hathaway, and today our guest is Lauren Yee, a cultivator of curiosity, a builder of communities, and a process-driven problem solver who has been managing people, projects, and clients, helping individuals of all ages, improving upon ideas so they can reach their fullest potential, and streamlining policies and procedures are the things that makes her come alive. She believes that curiosity, consistency, and authentic connections greatest drivers of great things. Before venturing out on her own, she helped build the largest Lego-inspired STEM company in the United States. She's also worked with the Golden State Warriors, Google, LinkedIn, Netflix, Southwest Airlines, and Workday, helping them build community, establish inclusivity, and create psychologically safe work environments where staff can thrive. I am delighted to welcome Lauren to the show. Good morning.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. And no matter how many times I hear my bio, it's very stressful and weird.
Okay, so you have a bit of that imposter syndrome like the rest of us, huh?
I
Because
mean, yes, I think it's just also like none of us are practiced at not none of us. Many people are not practiced at marketing ourselves, and we're like, oh my god, stop. I mean that's true, but also like I've not heard it all at once so often.
you're like,
It's a little stressful.
hi.
A little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to take it back. The bio was the bio, and I'm proud of you for it. So here we go. Our first segment of the show is just called Getting to Know You, and it's very simple.
Great.
This or that questions. Don't think too hard. Here we go.
Okay.
Tablet or laptop?
Laptop. I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
laptop.
OG, I like it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have reasons. I have one reason maybe. I know that there are versions and things to add on, like whatever, but I like keys. I prefer keys.
I
And
get
I
that.
have nothing against a touchscreen, but sometimes it doesn't work out very well for me. So I like
You like the action of
tangible.
pushing. I get
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't even have to like click like a full-on keyboard, but like there's a button
Yep.
and like a square that my finger can feel. I
I like that
appreciate
too.
that realness of what I'm doing.
It's actually there. It's not also
It's
virtual.
yes.
Sometimes that's
As is the
very important.
world right now. Oh my goodness,
Yes.
yes. A
Oi.
mix of both.
Are exactly. It makes coffee or tea.
Tea. I
What
I
kind?
um all of them. So I am a weirdo that many people do not understand, and I never okay, I enjoy coffee flavored things, but I've never been a coffee person. And people are
Yeah.
like, how do you function? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just here and it's happening. I've never been like, I need it. And I don't I like I like flavors of coffee, but I think I was traumatized as a child. Not really, but because we had mugs that we would just like drink anything out of because it was at the lowest shelf, so that's what I could reach. And I had put water into like a black hexagonal looking mug one day, and I like went and did something and came back, and I grabbed what I thought was my mug to drink water. So in my head, I'm thinking water because that's what I was drinking before. And it
Yep.
was my dad's cold cup of coffee. And I was just like, oh, what is this? Especially when you're thinking water. So I feel
Yes.
like that definitely was like, no, I don't really need that. Nothing against coffee. Coffee ice cream, like coffee with some like milk stuff in, like I can do, but I never seek it.
I feel like that's a better thing to be because coffee, there are places everywhere that you could go
Yes.
and drop $6 just like
Yes.
that because you tea, I feel like people think of tea in more of like a ritual way and oftentimes making it at home. Like it's very think of, you know what I need to go do is get myself a hot tea from a place.
I'm gonna
Like I
treat
would just
myself
make
to
it
a
at
tea.
home. Yeah.
Like it is treat, but it's also like it's not the same version.
And it's different. I mean, it is. They think of it very differently. But I don't know. In the US, I feel like tea is a more you make it at home and sit with a blanket, and coffee is like, I
It's
gotta get
cozy.
another
It is
coffee.
cozy. It's there's
Yeah.
something less. I mean, it's there's still caffeine, but there's like something a little bit calmer feeling about tea as a
Yes.
genre
Like
of beverage.
I'm prouder to say that I drink tea these days than I ever was saying I drank coffee.
Uh, own
Why? I
own
just
it.
all right, I'm owning it.
It's great.
Instagram or TikTok?
Oh, okay. This one is a I'm like a on a fence on I'm gonna say Instagram, but it's because I'm on it, because I really enjoy the TikToks that I've seen, but I have not downloaded the app because I have fears that I
Yes.
already don't have time and I will lose all of the time I don't have if I download it because it's so easy and so entertaining. So I
Yes.
am very intrigued by and interested in TikTok, but I've been like, no, force field. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Only when it gets sent to me will I look at the things. So I but in terms of like knowledge and focus, I'm going Instagram because of my choice.
Yeah, I get it.
But
I get it and
TikTok seems
respect
like a
it.
really cool platform for better for worse for all the things.
Yeah, totally. Okay, this is a tricky one. Maybe, maybe not. Work or play?
Oh, that is they're
Because
not.
for you, it's
I was like,
everything. All it
it's not different. For an overarching cheating, what both, but play
Yeah,
because because
because we all need
so
it. We're
many.
gonna get to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I don't think that they are exactly different. Sometimes things are hard, but like they don't have to be different. And it's kind of like it's not exactly like the phrases, but there's that whatever quote, like if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Like kind of yes, there's gonna be hard days, but also like work hard, play hard. Like no, just do both at the same time and then it's good. So kind of both,
Yes.
but I'll vote play if I have to choose.
You do have to choose. You pick play.
Play,
I love it.
play
Okay.
forever.
Netflix or YouTube?
Ooh,
Mhm.
I'm going. Okay, I'm currently going to say YouTube,
Okay.
and I justify everything, so I have to explain myself. I think I'm going with YouTube because when I go on YouTube, I actually watch things, and I do on Netflix as well. But I feel like I can't be the only one who also does the like, let me watch several trailers and add a bunch of things to my queue, but not actually watch anything. And so in terms of like, if I'm gonna consume some information on like a not a I'm gonna watch this movie, but like a let me peruse or see what's going on, I see and learn more on YouTube proactively.
Yeah. Lot. YouTube is definitely still thought of as like a place where you can go and learn things, and not just uh, watching like programming in some
Yeah.
specific way. It's more like if I want to
Yeah.
look something up, or I'm like, how do you play the G sharp on a ukulele? Like I'm going to YouTube. There's nowhere on Netflix for me to go for that. So
It's super true. But there's
yeah,
also like entertainment and funny things and like sports things and historic not historic, but like, current event historical like footage from stuff that you could search for
all
because
kinds of
and
stuff.
then
Our
yeah,
podcast
it's
is on YouTube. Like you can watch podcasts. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. All right,
so
last one.
yes.
Legos or puzzles?
Oh no.
I
Okay,
know.
wait. Can I puzzles in general
Whatever
or
you make of
like
the word puzzles versus Legos,
no, why would you do this to me?
because I'm very mean-hearted.
I
Isn't that
know, it's
obvious?
fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's gonna be fine. Um, okay, I'm gonna go with puzzle because I'm going to take it as an overarching theme, so it encapsulates more things because I love puzzles. Jigsaw, crossword, escape room, riddle, give me all the puzzles. So, Sudoku. So, there's more options with puzzle, and puzzles are problem solving, so that could also be Lego if I'm cheating. So
It's kind of true and thinking of it, so I'm proud of you for getting to the same place that I started
thank you.
from.
I felt it.
All right, amazing. So let's jump right into our next segment of the show. So this is called Humble Beginnings, where I'm going to ask you what your very first job ever was.
Okay. Very I was like very first like quote unquote job was probably like babysitting or chore. Like I can't because you're like, do this thing and I'll give you $5.
Sure, sure.
I feel like it might if it's not chore because that doesn't really count. That's just being part of a family household. But
Yeah,
probably babysitting, just like
right.
neighbors, but it was very like not job structure-y.
You
Does
didn't have
that
a
count? Or
401k there? That's
no,
crazy.
I don't even think I had to like sign any paperwork. There wasn't an
No, for
HR
babysitting?
department or anything. No,
Nothing. So then what was your
no.
first job where there was like you had to farm for?
The one that I was like, maybe there's another one. I have to think harder. But the one that comes to mind is I don't even know what our position was. I was like player services at a golf course. So I was like the
Yes.
person who would like welcome and if you brought your golf clubs, I'd like bring them down the stairs for you and then get you set up on a golf cart, send you into the pro shop to go check whatever tea times or whatever. Or it was also a private course, so some people had lockers, so they tell me their name and I'd have to like find their locker of stuff and like bring it out to them. Sometimes rescue people when it started to rain and we'd have to go they'd like call from somewhere in the course and we'd have to go find them and bring them back.
Oh my gosh, like you had to literally go and physically rescue
Because
people from the course?
some people, some people take carts and some people walk. And I'll say two things. Golfers are committed and get up
Yes.
very early and in very weird weather, very hot, very cold, rainy, almost rainy. And so sometimes like I'm working and they'd show up and we're like, it's really gloomy. And they'd get halfway through their course and then it'd be like pouring.
Oh,
And that's when we're
man.
like, "Well, I know, but here we come to come get you. You haven't learned yet."
Remember when
Um,
we told you that the forecast showed
remember the weather?
rain? Yeah,
Um,
remember weather? We're
like
not in
the
control of
wind
that.
and the clouds. So we would have to sometimes rescue people who made weather choices. And also, so again, golfers, very committed people. Other thing I would say is this was a super weird job for me because I had never picked up a real golf club in my life. I do not play golf. I did mini golf. That is not the same. And
Nope.
I found no, different skills, words, vocabulary. I found myself politely lying to lovely old folks who were like, "And how do you like golf?" Hi, it's been a long time since I've played. I hope to get out again soon.
You're like,
I
"I
have
go
no
where there are
words.
fun props, like giant dinosaurs I have to hit a ball through." I know that kind of course very
Yes,
well.
yes. Haven't the putting green is my friend sometimes. But it was
Sometimes.
I ended up there because a friend of mine was working and she's like, "They're hiring, you wanna work with me?" I was like, "Yes," but I was like, "I don't know anything about golf."
Yeah.
And so I felt very out of place, but I faked it a little bit and was just very nice because we're basically customer service with, like, a
I was
golf
gonna
club.
say, yeah, you're like customer service,
Mhm.
like directly relating to people. So it makes
Yes.
so much sense that that is your humble beginning that thrust you into the world of helping, loving people, wanting to be of service in some way. So tell us then,
Yeah.
how did you get from the golf course to being a leader in curiosity the way that you are these days?
I'll start somewhere
However
and
brief
you
you'd
can
like decide,
I know it's
just
like
yeah.
cut me off or redirect me if you need to.
Yeah,
Um
wherever you'd like to start from. How did you unfold? How did this career unfold for you?
okay. Well, I think that okay, so when you're younger, it's like I need a job because job experience and money to pay for things, as
Mhm.
with adulthood. So
Follows you into adulthood,
like
oddly
it
enough.
it continues, which is really unfortunate and annoying sometimes, but it's fine.
Yep.
So that job was like high school job of just I had a job. But in trying to choose universities and what you're trying to do, because you're apparently supposed to know that when you're 16, 17, 18, like, what are you going to study? What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Which
Yeah.
is confusing to me in retrospect also. But I really enjoyed architecture, and buildings, in a not just a like that's a cool building, but I, even as a younger, like middle school, maybe even fifth grader, we'd go to bookstores and I would go to like the architecture like section and look through those books of just floor plan after floor plan of houses, and I was like, I want to buy this. Like, what 12-year-old buys floor plans?
It's
So I was
interesting.
it was interesting enough to me that I was like, this is what I think I want to do. And we all make choices that make sense or don't make sense,
Yeah.
at the time, or even in retrospect. And when you look to the past, you're like, I don't know why I did that. So I
Yep.
was interested in architecture, took classes in school. Like, we had a CAD drawing class, like a computer aided design drawing class in my
Oh,
high school. And I was like, this
wow.
is great because I was interested in it. And then I could like
Yeah.
put it on my college application or whatever. But then I got into schools. I chose to go to UC Davis, which did not have an architecture program. Um,
Oops.
but again, I don't know why I did that. But in doing the career project in like high school, whatever, and you have to research something and present all the information about whatever position
Mhm.
of a person, I chose an architect. And there are a lot of civil and structural engineers who are architects. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. They're a great engineering school. That was my choice. Again, I don't really know what happened. I'm gonna say I was not a fully fledged adult with making good choices.
I
So
went to school as a dance major. So,
I
let's
think you're
just
doing great.
say call a spade and be like, you follow your passion at the time, what makes sense. The minute I got to school,
Yes.
I was like, I don't need a degree in this to go dance
You're like,
backup for
wait,
Janet Jackson. What am
I can just do this.
I could just do this. And then I started doing a few things and was just like, oh, I don't want to fun, but
But
I
not
always
like
knew I
for
wanted to be in
job life.
entertainment. So I
Yeah.
just got a degree in communication because I knew I could take that in a bunch of different directions. But
Yes.
you go with your gut. And again, there's so many
Yeah.
people that are like, you have to decide this now. What do you want to do?
And even if they don't
Uh
say it, it feels like that because you have to declare a maid. Like, if you are undeclared, people are like, oh, you're not gonna get in
they're like, you
places.
don't like fit anywhere. What are you doing? You're just
Like,
like
what do you mean?
study. What does that mean? And I'm like, what does any of the major
What
mean?
does any of this mean?
I don't
And then
know.
everyone has
Yeah.
existential crises. So I didn't
Yeah.
have that crisis, but I made a weird choice that I committed to
Okay.
and went there. And because in undergrad beginnings, you're doing all of the prereq everything, I was like, this is not what I want.
So right
And
away, you were like, these are not the
in the first
classes
like
that are
year and a
fitting.
half, it took me like a
Yeah.
year and a half, and I was just like, okay, because it's like physics and calculus and like geotechnical wastewater treatment, because that's the engineering part. And I was like, that's not
Ugh.
what I want.
Uh-uh.
Um, and luckily for me, UC Davis was the only UC left that had a design program. And I ended up switching
Mm.
majors to design with an emphasis in interior architecture. And I did that
Cool.
and minored in psychology just because it was interesting. And I was like, I need one more class for a minor. I took all the other ones because they were interesting. So I
Yeah.
did that and emerged into the world and worked in the design field for a while, as assistants to people. Got to work in some residential and some commercial stuff. And the reason I think I liked it is because puzzles,
Yes.
it's organization. It's like not directly helping people in the way that a lot of people think about it, but it's like you're creating spaces that are, like, for me, not form or function, but definitely function first with
Right.
form on top of it. Because there's too much stuff that's like pretty but useless, or like, how do you even do like move in this space? So function and form, to create spaces that feel inviting or like useful to people, or do a good job at whatever it is, if it's like a commercial thing that needs to fit a bunch of stuff in.
You're right.
Puzzles. So like I liked that part of it.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot in the early part of my career there. And then I worked my way to a position in working with a well-known designer and general contractor in Los Angeles, which I was like the lead design assistant, the project manager. It was like her and me. And other than owning your own business, that's basically the top of where you can be, and I hated it.
I was gonna ask you, I was like, because here's how I picture that. I picture it being a living nightmare, in that the amount of personality that's involved within that field specifically. I mean, you tell us, but when I hear high-end designer Los Angeles, I go, "Oh, dear God, no, 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 no."
There's a
So
lot
tell
of
us.
vision, which is
Yep.
great. But when it wasn't mine and it was less collaborative than one would think and hope.
Hmm.
And so I was just, it's where I thought I wanted to be with where I was in my past. But I wasn't getting to like directly help people. I
Yeah.
was not solving problems. I was just like researching things and invoicing people and like not yelling, but like trying to coordinate everybody's schedules. And like none of that was what I wanted. Um, but also because I'm a helping nice person, I had to quit 3 separate times because I wanted to I was willing to, like, train a replacement and be helpful in that way, but
Yep.
then they wouldn't hire anybody because I was doing such a good job because I was happy because I was leaving. But I didn't get to help people. I was willing to help the next me position person, but then I got trapped and I was like, "I'm moving away. I could no longer work here." That was, like, the
Yeah.
final leaving. And, it was just not the environment or position for me with what I was hoping for and wanting. And then I moved without a plan, which
I was gonna
is
ask. Okay.
confusing for
Yep.
me. I did not have I was like, nope, not this. Um, and I did the thing like you do in back in high school, where you're like, I need money to pay for things.
Yep.
And I was open to the possibilities of like, what are the things I like? And I just need to do stuff that I either enjoy some level of so that I can have money, but not be like so upset that it's a terrible job because I just got out of that I didn't like. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I like to help people, or I want a company that's doing something cool that I can believe in, or maybe have coworkers because I hadn't had that for a long time,
Yeah. I
or
relate to that a
something that I
lot.
could.
Yeah.
It can be hard, and we don't
Yeah.
always recognize that as an important part of a job. Um, and also just the idea that I was working so hard at this thing that I didn't like, and so hard and so much that I had no other time for anything else. And
Right.
so my other thing was I was like, maybe I just need a job that I can go to and leave and then have time. So these were all the I was like, either time or cool people or something that am good at doing that I like doing or a company that I can believe in, like any of these things. But I
Which
was
all
very
makes so much sense
open.
to me as directions you could potentially go with.
Yeah. I I don't know why I ignored it for so long previously in my life, but I got to the point where I was like, this is just the bare minimum of what I'd like to do. What are the things? And it was great because it was such a weird, I was like, I never want to do design stuff ever again, but I was also like burnt out and I was like, I just need something to pay for stuff and like whatever. For now, it's gonna be a temporary thing. I'll figure it out once I can pay for stuff. And that like accidental brought upon myself mindset of like I could do whatever's fine. I was willing to just be in the process and not have the like I have to do that next thing. And I stumbled into the Lego inspired STEM learning through play organization on Craigslist. I was like,
Good
this
to
feels like
know.
like playing with kids and Lego and teaching. This feels like a trap.
It
What?
crap. Let's both be very clear
It's
on
true.
that.
I was very
Guys, make sure
aware.
you really double check all your Craigslist if you're showing up somewhere
Yes,
physically. Make sure someone knows where you're going. Just
definitely. And like,
for kids,
as I
toys
was
with
filling
kids.
things out, I was like, okay, they haven't asked me for like a social security number or anything weird. It's
Oh,
fine. But I was
yeah.
like, whatever. I'm just gonna apply because I'm applying to so many things.
I need to buy things.
Yeah, pay rent, food, stuff.
That would be
Um,
good.
so I applied for that and then kind of forgot about it because, job market, it takes some time. But I ended up in that job and it was real. um,
Yeah.
and it was just so great. You got to like learn through play. You're helping kids. Um, whether you're talking to kids or had other coworkers around who could like commiserate with like, oh my gosh, this class thing I just did. It was great to have those things, something I believed in. I was getting to do something active. I got to be creative in that space. And I kind of accidentally stayed there because I sat in the process and I wasn't trying to like do the architecture thing or do the net, like what am I trying to get to?
Mm.
I just like liked it for what it was, but I was very present. Um, and as things happened, time goes on, people are like, "Hey, are you still doing that like Lego thing?" It's like, "Yeah, actually I am several years in." And it's just like I felt the need to justify and explain myself because they're like that thing that you started accidentally. It's like,
I
"Yeah,
think that
I
happens a
love what we do."
lot, don't you? Like,
Yeah,
that
like
feeling
when
like
are
you
you
have
gonna
to
get a
justify.
real job or like because this
Yeah.
is not something that anybody else recognizes as a job.
They don't understand, and I think that's also, like, with certain different paths that, like, Lauren and I were chatting right before we started recording, where there are so many different paths that we don't even know about that exist for work. So, if somebody comes to you and says or you're talking to someone, they say, "Oh, I'm doing this," like, don't discredit it right away because you
Yeah.
probably have no idea the depths of what that thing could be or is going to be, and,
Or
like, what
maybe
you're
even what it
describing.
means.
Yeah,
Because,
or
like,
what it
even the words that
yeah.
I hear, like, maybe that's not exactly what you do, but I'm just like, I don't know what that is. So I'm like making some assumptions. So, like, ask some
Yes.
questions, like, encourage people to do what they want to do. Because that's
Yeah, so
when
you're like, "Yeah,
magical
I'm
things happen.
Legos, what?"
Yes, exactly. And my justification self said, I like my coworkers. I love what we do. I get to like help people and kids and adults learn. We also grew a team building department with grown-ups to trick them into learning stuff by playing with Lego. It was so
Wow.
fun. So like I just liked it and I liked it enough that I didn't feel like I was missing something else to some extent. And I got more responsibilities and was got promoted and like did more stuff and got to work on projects, like extra projects and committees to try to help shape what we were doing. And it was just such a different thing than what I had come from. But I liked what I
Yeah.
was doing and I never thought I'd be there. But that I realized was so important. I think that some of it was like getting to also where I am now, helping working with kids. I say this, I had said this and continue to say this so often that not like talk to me or treat me like a kid, but the ways that we interact with kids to help them like teach, learn, communicate, empathize, all of those like make mistakes. We need to be doing with adults. Like, can we all adult like a kid a little more than we have been? Because
Yes.
we're not suddenly adults. Like, yes, we are by age and law and whatever, but like nothing magically changed for me when that
No. Oh
happened.
my god, I love that you're saying that. I love that you're saying this because it's such a really just a really good point that I feel like even I mean, I lose sight of this on a daily basis, right? I go on my LinkedIn page and I'm like, "Oh, fancy person, fancy person, fancy person." And I
Let me
think to
be an
myself,
adult.
"Wow, they figured out how to be an adult in such a good way." And here I am like I'm like I always said this certain people and the way that I've viewed myself and other people and that compare and despair sort of thing that so many people get in that thrives off of. Which
Yes.
is I feel like everybody else seems to present as like this shiny framed photograph. And I'm like a collage that's been like stuck together with like really crappy ends of scotch tape or something. And you can
Scotch
see
tape,
the
maybe some
tape.
staples.
Yeah, you can see where it all's trying to stay connected and together, and it's sort of like, "Look, I'm one big vision of a thing." And then theirs is just like printed, it's simple, it's framed, and, like but
You're like,
that's
mine's not even framed.
true,
It's a
right?
magnet on the fridge.
Yeah,
Does that count?
yeah,
But
but it's that
that's
idea.
it's now it's like okay, the question in the beginning, it's the social media stuff, right? Especially now where it's like, this is what I'm putting out into the world. And I feel like yes, I do some things to be like, oh, this is like professional ish version of me because like we have to play the game a little bit.
A
But
little bit, yeah.
I'm still me. I'm like always me in whatever realm, like platform, conversation, people I know or don't know. It's like always me. And I feel like there's a lot of people who try to separate that or try to be perfect or try to be an adult or try to do the right thing. And yes, to an
Yes.
extent, like morals do the right thing. But at the same time, like there is no right answer. Everything is gray area, even though we were taught so much black and white in life. Like it's fine.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
fine.
And the idea that you all of a sudden become an adult and like snap your fingers, everything is
Like I've
it's
made
not
it.
true
I
for
know everything.
anyone. Nobody.
No. So that got in working at this company and learning through play with kids and adults, and also seeing adults like remember how to be a kid sometimes because we were politely encouraging them, not forcing them, inviting them to play. But
Not
because,
forcing.
kids, what you do is we give them, like, we'd have a project and we'd give them space to do stuff within that. So, like, this is what it is. Like, yours can be different, but like, we're building a car and this is how you do it. But yours can be bigger, smaller, 12 times the size, have 1,000 wheels, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And then grown-ups, we would go to these events and we'd be the simplest thing. Like we'd get started and be like, all right, we're going to build a tower. You have 10 minutes, go. And there'd be some people would be like, okay, and just start, but like feel really tentative. There was a handful of people who were like, I play with Legos all the time. I'm so excited and like go for it. And then like the other like 2/3 of people are like, what do you mean? Like what, how? I was like, a tower up, just tall and strong tower, just tall. And they're like, but how do I do that? And like the bricks are in front of you, just put them on each other. Like, but
They wanted like full
just
blown
how,
direction though.
like they
Yeah.
want to know what's the right way to do it. They don't want to
Yes.
be wrong. They don't want to fail. And so getting to practice teaching kids and then getting to practice teaching adults and being like, you're just giant kids with like a little bit more life experience and shininess because we've done more in life. But
Right.
like we're the same. We function the same. We're not like a different species. It's not like we've
Right.
transformed.
No, we
And
just got
so
taller.
yeah, and hopefully a little bit smarter in some aspects of life, not so much in other aspects because we don't have to know everything. And so also in being a manager of people, of other educator staff at that time, again, not being like, you're a child, but being like, remember how I tell you to do this with the kids in your class? I'm going to do that with you. Managing expectations, consistency, support. Like, we're on the same team and trying to, like, I don't know why we're fighting about this thing. We're both trying to accomplish the same thing here. And that has come up so many times that when I was no longer working at said company, I was like, this, more people need this. Like, not to force it upon people, but I don't think that it's something that is brought to the forefront enough of, I feel like it's making a little bit more headway now with more fields and more fields of outside help being
Yes.
okay. But we're in like a beginning stage of people understanding that it's okay to make mistakes and not be perfect and fail, which is a scary word, but it shouldn't be. Um,
Right.
and ask for help and not have all the right answers and not need to know everything, and be willing to try stuff. I feel like that's gaining traction, but it's so important that I like want to help. I always want to help people, but I found myself doing this in my job, not in my job description parts of my job. Also, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to just help you because like this makes me happy. I like getting to help you be a better person in your role and do a better job. And it's okay that you made a mistake. I've made that mistake 12 times and remembered how to do it the 13th time. So making it a space for people, like inviting people to be like, it's okay, you're not alone, we're all there, um felt really
Yeah.
important to me. And so I've stumbled into where I'm at now.
You then take everything that you had learned, everything that you saw that more people need, and turn it into a business for your, which I know is sort of a large question. Even any little insight into that, I think would be super helpful to hear.
I think a lot of, okay, so I play, to me, is a field of, I don't feel weird calling it an industry because it feels wrong. But it's a field that is growing. If you know about it, great. If you don't, it's very interesting, and I encourage you to look at it because Play is for grown-ups doesn't mean a lot. I feel like most grown-ups think of recess and hopscotch and board games, maybe reading if like, some people it's like hobbies. But
Yeah.
I think of play as a tool to use in action to get wherever or do anything. Um, it's how you look at things because play to me is about being present and engaged in a process and invested in whatever's going to come out the other side, which you might not know exactly, but it's not about like, I have to do that thing. It's like, I kind of want to get there, but like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, and that being okay. And my lens of that, which I realize now, but didn't realize as I was doing it all of my life, is curiosity. Like, I'm a lifelong learner, but not in the sense of like, I want to learn about the galaxy and ships and hit, like, I do like those things, but like to an extent, I'm like, okay, cool. Surface, great. You're the expert in that. That was really interesting. But I'm curious about people mostly, which is like I love meeting new people like you and anyone who I pass on the street or at networking events or coworkers or friends that I have, and like, let's hang out some more. I love people. So I love learning about people, and would ask a lot of questions. So my lens is curiosity,
Yeah.
of in that play world, because you have to be curious and playful to think about now and future. Both of those things are not focused on the past. Like, they might question the past in the sense of the future to like give you some framing and stuff like that. But it's not
Right.
about like, oh, like, why didn't I do that? I wish I could have, I shouldn't have spent whatever. It's about like, okay, where are we now and where are we going? And what resources do I have to get there? And that's like in a playful way, like when you think about kids, because it's so much more concrete for kids, which is why I like having the adult like a kid, because you know what it is for a kid, but we don't know what it is for an adult. But you can kind of
Yeah.
envision, like when kids are playing on a playground, they're just like, I don't know, playing some imaginary game, and they're like, that tree is a castle. And you're like, yes, okay. And how are we going to get there? And we have to gather our quote unquote horses and go across this sandbox moat. But it's not like, there's no question. It's just like, that's what's happening. We're going to figure out how to do it. And we're just going to go for it.
It's like
And
it's just yes anding.
yes,
Yes, and what
exactly.
else? Yeah.
Um, that is a huge part of grown up play that I think a lot of people we're used to negating, because
Yeah.
our brains are like, no, safety, survival, don't make a mistake, stay safe, make sure that you have a backup. And you're like, yeah, but then we don't do anything. And so we
That's
just
what
have to do
happens.
something sometimes. Like, like, so part of oh my gosh, I'm gonna get back to the question, I swear. Part of how I ended up here
It's okay.
was having the like decade or so of play practice and accidental leaning into curiosity, which was just like my MO, but I didn't necessarily name it that. Was that when I no longer like was no longer working there, it was a following your curiosity sort of thing. Kind of like back in the day. Oh my god, it's all making sense now. Back in the day, with I chose a college that did not have the major that I wanted to major in specifically. Um, I was following my curiosity, which I think is important, because not some people have passions, doctor, lawyer, dream schools, great. I didn't have that. But I follow my curiosity in the sense of like, well, this is interesting to me. And so that kind of can lead you places in start where you want to go next in transitions. Um, Maybe a lot of people are saying like, oh, you'd be great at this thing, but if you're not interested in it, don't do it. Like,
Yes. I
yes,
think
I
that's
would
a
be great
huge
at
thing.
that.
If it doesn't spark something in you, it's not
It's
the
not
right
gonna
it's
it's
not
not
the
gonna
right
pan
path.
out. You're not gonna be excited about it. You have play. You have to be invested and interested and present. And if you're not interested in a thing, I mean, you might be able to do it. And if something's important to you enough, like if you're like, I'd really like to just make a lot of money. And if you can do that and that's important to you, and then you can do all the fun stuff separately in a different time, great. If that's not what's important to you and the work is not important to you, you got to find
Right.
different work.
Yeah.
And even within your field of whatever, if you are an entrepreneur and you have your business and it's like going okay, but you're like, what do I want to do next? Or to grow or to additional product or additional services, you got to figure out what you're interested in. Because if
Yeah.
you're like with kids, if you're interested, they'll be interested. Like, not
Yeah,
in a
and it's sort of a
forceful way.
stumble thing, like you were saying before, be okay to fail because fail can mean so many different things and it can like wrap itself in um its own like I don't know exactly what I'm saying with that, but my what I mean is that like for instance entertainment for 14 years and I always wanted to be in entertainment. But what I found about being in entertainment in the way that I really wanted to be, which is as a performer on camera,
Mhm,
um there were certain things that still like fulfilled the dream that I had or the things that I knew I really wanted to do that I was really really good at. But so
mhm.
many other aspects of it were just breaking my heart and draining my soul of
Yeah.
optimism, the different energy that I naturally have as a person. It's
Mhm,
also given me the chance to really do a lot of like self work on myself because of all of those feelings that it brought, which has allowed for me to become a much better person since I've been able to recognize how unhappy I was or the different areas of it that just were not checking the boxes that I really wanted it to. And so it's like learning though that that doesn't make me a failure by not doing that thing anymore or not going after that thing anymore. It's more
mhm.
like part of it comes along and I get to do that, amazing. So I would never say no or close any doors because that would
Yeah,
be exciting. But
yeah,
knowing that the failing part of like, wow, the lifestyle and these other things about it are things that I did not end up driving with is just information. It's not necessarily
yes.
like I'm failing or oh, I made the wrong choice. It's well, this is information I never would have had. And all of these experiences are things I would never have had I not just gone for it and
Yeah,
put myself out there. And I can say I put myself out there in every single way I could possibly think of. So I have no regret. Now has shown me from the good things and the things that went totally not the way I
yes,
wanted them to, that I'm actually capable of doing different things moving forward. And I think it's really hard for so many people. I would say most people to feel okay with like, oh, I think I made the wrong choice. Like you were saying, like you got to school and you were like, oh crap, I can't
whoops.
even do like you pass. So you took that and you didn't, beat yourself up for it. Or if even if you did briefly and then you just kind of kept going. For me, I'm a beat myself up person like naturally. That's sort of ingrained in me. So I have to work really hard not to do that. So having conversations like this where you're hearing like how important it is to like try and follow your passion and then like something doesn't work. Okay, cool. Now we know that. That's information we've learned and then you can keep going is like what you can take out of it. Not to sound it's very practical
It's
information,
so true.
actually. Yeah.
I a couple things that you said that I was just like, "Yes, preach, you're doing it. Keep saying things." Uh,
Work,
wha
firework,
let me
firework.
just set it up and you're gonna
You
nail
get a car. You get a
it.
car.
Um, there's a couple things. One is that it is so important because if you anything that you do is information. Like you're going to learn that you like something or don't like something or people or spaces or whatever. And so like failure is a scary word because we're taught that it's a bad like it's about losing and failure and you
Yes.
mess up and you made a mistake. But it's literally just the way that something didn't work. When something fails, it didn't work. And that's fine because now you're like, cool, not that way, different way, and you can move on and stop worrying about that way, or that
Yes.
path or information or whatever.
I love
um,
that.
One other thing that I will say, not to just for vocabulary's sake, that I feel like is also important is you mentioned the word passion, and I think that
Yeah.
that's important and also sometimes not real for people. Like for me, like I didn't have I had the like architecture dream goal because I was you're supposed to have a dream job, and that was mine. I was like that
Right.
one because I'm supposed to have fill in the blank. But
That
in
one's
terms
fine.
that seems good. But like in
I'll do
terms of
that.
passion, I don't know if I had because even weirdly enough in that field, if you want to be like a design architect, I think generally you're like, oh, I should own my own business because then my name's on the thing. And even when I was in it, I loved doing that type of stuff, but I
Yeah.
never wanted to own my own company. I mean, here I am now. But at the time, I was like, I never wanted to own my own company. And so it was like a very weird, like I'm interested, but it almost didn't feel like a passion.
Yes.
And not everybody has that, which is why I feel like curiosity is such an important word as well, because you can be curious about passion feels like big and final and like this is the way, but it doesn't have to be like that. You can be curious about
Right.
more than one thing at once, and you can stop being curious about something, and it's not failure. It's like, oh, I've learned something and I'm no longer curious. I've learned enough and I'm going to go a different way. It's like walking through a forest trail or something and you're like, "Oh, I no longer wanna go that way. There's too many brambly bushes. That does not interest me." Or maybe you're like, "That looks like
Yes.
a challenge and is interesting." So, like, curiosity helps because it's not as permanent. It
Yes,
ebbs
and I
and
love
flows.
that. It ebbs and flows. I love that because you are right. A handful of people that didn't have a very clear passion for something, and going to school was tricky for them because they ended up in different fields. But years later, I mean, that's why a lot of lawyers leave law after all that school and all that student debt that they end up accruing to go to law school and get through the madness of it. And then they practice for 2-3 years and they're like, I hate the law, I hate this, I don't like the lifestyle. I'm sure I'm making a ton of money, but this sucks. I think it
Yeah,
happens all the time, and it's giving permission to yourself to go, "Okay, great. You know what? Yes, does it feel like what do I do now? Sure, it can, but that's where you're saying curiosity can come into play.
yeah.
Being because I think about it like that all the time, that I did have this passion driving me. So I was like, okay, so I was tunnel vision. And I remember a lot of people along the way were like, dude, like, what else are you into? And I was like, nothing. This is
Like, this
why
is this is
I'm
it.
here. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm meant to do. Every bit of energy I have should be going into this thing to make it happen. And I think I really, I'm excited that where I am now is on the very different side of that, where I feel like I learned a lot by seeing that with that tunnel vision, I didn't allow for myself to be curious about a lot of other things. And even areas I thought that I was doing that, but I also would always go back to, but to be
But
successful,
let
I
me
have to give every one thing to make it happen. And the
yes.
curiosity that I have now about learning about different things and talking to people like it's like just through that, like operating through curiosity, I not only open myself to meeting great people, but then I get to be interested in all different types of things that
Yeah.
I never really would have before had I only been talking to other people in entertainment. Similar to a lot of other fields, I think, where you get very insular with the people that you
Yes.
interact with, or your community becomes like
Which
everybody's
is
doing this
not
thing.
bad, but yes
No.
and. Yes
Yes,
and.
and where maybe bring something else and something
More
different to
to
make you
the
think
table and your
differently.
path. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, the things that you're saying make so much sense, and it's good to it's I'm not saying don't have if you have a passion, great. If you don't, also great.
Also
But
great.
it's not bad to have goals,
Yeah.
but don't get so fixed on, like, the right way or the shoulds.
Yes.
When you should yourself or other people should you, it, like, closes so many doors because kind of like our the childhood thing where you don't know what jobs are out there except for what you see, which is like in TV shows and whatever. You don't know what jobs are there, so you just like choose one, and then you're like,
Yeah.
that's what I want. But if you're too focused and too should and too like get away from everything else, you don't know what else is out there. That happens even if you do know what you want to be doing or you're excited about your business. Talk Be willing to talk to people, or if someone's like, have you ever considered this, and you're like, that seems like a dumb idea, but like maybe you can hold on to that thought, but outwardly like ask some questions because maybe they have insight that you don't. Everyone you meet knows something more about something than you do, has different experiences from you, maybe has a different perspective and angle that you've never considered and couldn't because you have had a different experience.
Yeah.
And also, the curiosity thing is important for everybody, but also even wherever you are in your life because yes, we have an idea, but that might not be where we end up. And you'll never know if you aren't open to other things. I talk about this a lot too, where like Google and YouTube and esports weren't a thing a couple decades ago. Like we
Yeah.
had no idea that that was going to be a thing, like, especially esports. Like people just kept playing because they liked it, and now they get paid so much money. Who knew that was going to be a thing? Like you have
Yeah.
no idea. So like if you're interested in something, it's worth exploring. to an extent, like, yes, I know you're an adult and you have to survive and pay bills and like like have your like pay attention to your family, all those things. Also, like, pause for a second before you say no or should or nah, I don't know. Like, let me just like why are you saying, like, are you interested but you're scared? Like, you can like dip a toe
Right.
in without diving in the deep end. It doesn't have to be a full on
Right.
commitment.
People can you can dabble.
Yes.
Dabbling also because you can keep whatever work that you are doing to keep paying your bills and keep a roof over your head while you dabble on the side to see what else might spark something in you because yeah, you don't know. And sometimes people's hobbies on the side or things that they're interested in like that, they kind of take over what they're doing at work, and they kind of go, all right, well, I feel like I love this so much, let me just see what else exists. It just
Mhm.
it makes me think of, I went camping not that long ago, and, there's this couple who live on the campsite to have so people have someone to have access to ask
Oh,
questions,
uh-huh.
to, like, buy extra
Like camping
firewood
property
from.
management.
They're like the groundskeepers sort
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. That's better.
campsite, and it's like a giant campsite. But I went over and I talked to them for a minute, and they gave me great suggestions of like this hike where there was a waterfall that I never would have found without them. And they just had also just this pleasant quality to them where you could just tell, like, I don't know how old they are. I don't know what their lives were previously, but you could just tell that they were the kind of people that somewhere down the line they were like, we love this so much. How can we do this? Like, for ourselves, but also, like, make it into a thing we could do to
Yeah,
exist with.
yeah,
Myself, how I sometimes ever since, I just keep thinking, like, the campground people, like, passion for camping to a different level, and now they
yeah.
make money getting to sit there and talk to people about camping stuff, and I just thought that was
Yes,
awesome. It's like people who work at REI, sometimes you have a conversation with somebody who works at, like, a specialty store, and they just blow your mind with knowledge, and you're like, "This person loves this thing so much that they were like, I could do sales within this and not hate it because I could totally just be here and enjoy it."
yeah,
And so they followed whatever curiosity they had about, being a climber, and now they teach climbing and work at a all the thing, and they probably never thought, maybe he was a lawyer before and he's like, this is the worst, but I could sell climbing shoes left and right because I love this and I talk about it all day. And I just think people
yes,
forget that those things can exist, and it doesn't mean that you're not as successful as the lawyer who's making the
yes,
six-figure income and sometimes hates their life, but it's worth it to them to do it. It's just so
yes.
different for everybody, but following your curiosity is like the way to
Just do
go.
it.
I just had one
And
question for you that I wanted to
yes,
ask really quick, which is just because I feel like this is something that you touch on within your work to a certain degree. I think it's relevant for sort of everybody. So within the work that you've done, and especially being working within companies and stuff, do you have an opinion of what you think a work week should look like in general for people, or is it really specialized for each type of company? Do you have sort of an overall idea of how you think that a work week should function for people?
I think that that is a great question because it is something that people are looking for answers to a lot. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to answer because I want one, I don't want to should. There's no shoulds because
Right.
we're all different. Every organization's different. Every like person and group of people and organization, all of those levels are different. And so with it feeling like a bit of a cop out answer, but I feel like it's very true, is especially um in the current time in the recent year ish we've had, um people have had to shift and reassess things. And I think that I've thought this before, but I think that more people are accepting and realizing this now. Also, because what it should, quote unquote, should look like. I have worked remotely for a long time also. I've worked in offices, but I've also worked remotely, either individually or with a team that's in other places across the country or locally or whatever.
Right.
Um, we all are full humans, and people talk about a lot about like work life balance or work and play, but it's all the same life. And to some extent I know that this is hard and really intangible, but I think that companies, if you are employing people and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, what you ask of them. It kind of doesn't matter how they do. I mean, like, again, morals, ethics, but like, as long as they get it done,
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter when. Yes, accessibility of like having similar working hours or being accessible if you need to talk to someone or be in meetings and stuff like that. But
Sure. Yeah.
if I like some people are morning people versus like night owl people. Some people are like independent and solo and have cats and dogs. Some people have families with multiple kids and like have to bring people to school or get them set up on virtual calls, or there's just a bunch of things happening. And
Yeah.
for people to function at their highest potential, we need to be more flexible to let them be their version of their human. Because if we have to fit into a box, you're discounting certain people in general, potentially even like with like disability and other things, or
Yes,
all of that.
exactly.
So you're potentially, if you have to fit in this box, you're discounting certain people who cannot fit in that box because of who they are or because of their lifestyle or their partner's lifestyles or whatever. If they do say, yes, I'm going to figure out how to fit in this box, they're potent and they you aren't working with them in some level of flexibility, they are probably not working at their highest potential even when they are there, because they're having to worry about things or have also, I have to go pick up this kid and then I have to go to this appointment and there's too many things. And if you have to be on when you expect them to be on all this in this exact time frame, but nobody's winning. And I know that's a very hard switch, but even just certain things of like allowing people like little things. I know this is a little far away from the question, but like when someone's just like, I need some time off work, and if it's not catastrophic because like there's like a major event happening and like a client and whatever, like say yes or no. You don't need to know why. They don't need to justify. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's mental health, maybe it's an appointment, maybe somebody passed away and they don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
And we need to allow people to be people again because we got to a place where everything's about productivity, which I know is important in functioning in
Yeah.
this world, but we're still people. And I think that we've forgotten that. And I think that this last year or so, people have gotten to be reminded a little bit because we're in each other's homes, whether we want to be or not. And like you're a
Yeah.
real person, and like people are walking in the background behind you. You're getting interrupted by a kid, or your cat is walking behind you, and you're a real person. And I hope that people don't forget that as we kind of start to come out of this. I think that the work week could and should look a little bit different than what we expected it to before. And I don't
Yeah.
think that it has to look like something. I don't think that it has to be 40 hours. I don't think that you should have no rules, but I think that flexibility and curiosity, meaning talk to people, talk to your staff, let them talk to you, listen, maybe, hopefully, is going to be really key to having everybody be able to function in it. Because if you're,
Yeah.
we've seen it, if you're in big companies, if you're to like, this is how it is, we're coming back in, these are the rules, deal with it or not, people don't want that anymore and will leave.
People are running away from that at this point.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
I actually got a lot done just fine the way it was when we were I think that's the big and also is that there was so much still done within people working from home and just you know in touch through technology and whatever else.
Like,
There was
we're so
still like
capable.
yeah, there was so much capability. I think a lot of discussion of like, yeah, people didn't need to be working the 8-hour day. They were able to make sure that they were more efficient so that they could handle themselves, their mental health, their families, etc., around or throughout the whole thing. And to your point, I guess something I would love to say is just I really hope that we can keep reminding each other that every single person you encounter in any single day at this point has just lived through over a year of trauma. Every single person. There's not a single did not experience this that we just lived through. We all know this unless they were born literally yesterday or today. I mean, it's just not possible. So, keeping in mind at every single level that you're dealing with all people who are all survivors of trauma in one way or the other and reminding each other of that, but reminding each other also that like it doesn't have to be as it was before. In fact, most scientists are saying it should not ever go back to what it was before, that we need to this, but keep reminding the people around us that, for instance, you go to a restaurant slow. Are you really going to be the person that complains at a restaurant this week or next week, or um, go to a store and there's nobody there to help you and get mad about it and complain? Like, people are literally hired back to jobs, and what they're getting hired back with is a lot of like, it's a lot of shock to your system and a lot of trying to like catch back up. And I would just implore everyone to remind people to be patient right now also,
Yeah.
and that it doesn't have to be a go 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 ever again if we choose not to let it get to that. Because as you're saying,
Yeah.
like, a lot of people were able to check in with themselves for the very first time, or companies were checking in with people for the first time and finding out like, oh my gosh, there is so much going on that we either didn't know of, that and they're still getting things done, or just paying more attention to like, okay, you do need time, so just take the time
Yeah.
that you need. There's no way we can get mad about that. Like, it has to work that way. And if it's always like that, then I think people would work just as hard knowing that they're going to be able to reap the benefit of having more of a personal life because that's being respected more. So just being able to like walk the walk, and also remind the people around you if anybody starts, a little bit of that previous behavior up again, you can kind of, I don't know. I think it's important to give people that nudge right now and remind them like, hey, 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 we literally just lived through a pandemic. Remember that? In fact, it's still actually happening all over the world.
Yeah.
So let's take a breath and
Yeah.
lead with curiosity and kindness and see what that could bring all of us, because it can only get way better from here if we like choose to make it that way. That
Yeah.
coming up for
I
me a lot while you were speaking.
That's totally fair. And while you were speaking, it did make me think like people are worried about going back to normal or like
Yeah.
back because I get that. It's comfortable. We were been in a very uncomfortable space for a long time.
Yeah.
As of late, maybe even before that. Um, but we're through time and space moving forward, and if we are trying to go back to something, we're not going to progress. So you have to be flexible and move forward, like maybe not in huge grand gestures. It's not about that. Being curious and little steps, little questions, like just asking a question. It's like when people are like, hey, how are you? And like we're just like, fine. And like now it's like, how are you? Like, I am terrible, everything's terrible. And I feel like we've all gotten to that point. And so are we
Yeah.
going to go back to the I'm fine? I'm sure there's a middle ground.
Not. Yeah, I really hope we don't. I hope that it becomes
No.
like, I'm surviving. Things are actually okay right now. But
Answer
that
for real.
grounded conversation of like, yeah, or things are still really tricky for us. How about you?
Yeah.
It's
Asking for
okay.
real and answering for real.
Yes,
Both
you can answer
sides.
for real and ask for real.
Like,
Absolutely.
don't ask me if you don't actually want to ask me. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying the real answer for a long time. I don't know if people like it or not, but I've been saying it for a long
Own
time. And
it.
I think I do think that this changed a lot of people's way of looking at that
Side
being
note.
honest isn't a bad thing. Knowing that again, if you're also talking to someone who has been through the same similar thing, like keeping that space for them and their answer too. So
I applaud
anyway,
you
so
for
we
that.
have to move
Please
on to
keep
our
doing it.
last. Oh yeah,
Please
sorry,
keep
go
doing
ahead.
that because
Please
I just
keep
want to
doing
say,
it. Please keep doing it.
please, please, if it's not hurting anyone else, like answer when people ask how you are, answer for real because it gives people permission. They're like,
Yes.
oh, I can also answer for oh, okay. And that's
Yeah.
so huge because people aren't used to it. So please, everybody do it. You can do it too.
Yeah, do. All right, just to round out our show, Lauren, Brandon, where I have three multiple choice questions just for fun because it adds like
Oh no.
percentages and random facts into the episode.
Okay.
If you get them wrong, you win, and if you get them right, you win.
I
So
win.
there's
Okay.
literally no pressure. You already won. Okay,
Great.
so number one, who invented the Lego? Who invented Legos? Was it
Oh,
A,
invented it.
Phineas Hill, B, Ole Kirk Christensen, or C, Charles Schumacher the second?
I would like to say B.
You are correct. But
Great.
weren't
I
my
was like,
other
that's
names fun?
they were I was like, maybe that one, not that one. That doesn't sound familiar. Like
My
uh
favorite part is coming up with the other answers, and this time I
were
really
they
loved
straight
Phineas
fake
Carlisle.
names? I love it. I hope that you have backstories for both of the other characters.
Oh my god, I don't, but if I had to come up with them on the spot, I would. But you were correct. It's Ole Kirk Christensen, a Danish carpenter, who invented Legos in 1932. Very
I
cool.
did it.
You did it. You already won.
So did he.
Um, yeah. Number 2, this one's about inclusivity. So by 2024, less than what percentage of the US labor force is expected to be defined as white non-Hispanic? I found this fascinating. So again, by
Okay.
2024, less than what percentage of the US labor force is expected to be defined as white non-Hispanic? Is it A, 22%, 40%, or C, less than 60%?
Less than, but that's not that far away.
Right. I know.
Ugh.
We're in 2021.
Okay. A?
Less than 22%. So it's actually less than 60%,
Okay.
which is C. But as recent, this is crazy though, as recent as 1994, that figure was 75%.
Okay, so it's
So
dropping a lot.
dropping quickly.
Yeah.
Um, and which also just goes back to part of what you do in your work within companies, helping them develop more inclusivity. And
Maybe
it
mine
makes
was a
so much
hopeful
sense.
answer.
Yeah, well, it is a hopeful answer. Also, eventually going to get to that, I mean, it's
Like, not in
gonna
a non-inclusive way, but just like, let's
yeah,
all just get in there.
let's all get in there. Exactly. And that's more what it's about is like if everything is more even keeled, then we all learn way more from each other too. So, and
Yes.
then lastly, 79% of employees will quit their job due to what? A, lack of appreciation from leaders. B, changing career trajectories, or C, work schedule. A whopping 79% quit because of this. And this surprised me. I'll say that too.
Oh, there's so many industries. Uh,
And they're all credible reasons on
I know. I was like, they're all. I was like, these are all real. I was like, which one? Would you say 79%?
yeah,
I. I mean, like the logical part of me wants to say C, but the softer but also logical part of me wants to say A.
go with the soft part. Correct. Lack of appreciation from leaders is why people leave roles. Of sense to me because when I think back on the variety of jobs I've ever had, like going way, way, way back, um, usually why I wanted to leave, if I didn't like who I was working for, it was really hard to stay. Like, and
Yeah,
and I say that in the sense that if they didn't appreciate how hard I was working or what my contributions were, there was always something that, I mean, it's good to get and always try for being better, but at
yeah,
the same time, if you're not valued for what you're already bringing to the table as your think it's really hard to kind of get past that. And you'll hear about someone being in a good situation. You're like, oh my God. Okay. Well, you know, so, but
it's very
79%
true.
will people quit because of that. And I thought that was really, I mean, empowering in its own way of like, hey, leaders, maybe listen. Like you said
Yeah,
earlier,
you know
let's
that
listen,
flexible thing.
please.
Like people matter, and they care what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, and they care what you think, and they wanna know that, they're doing a good job or that you see what you see them. People wanna be seen. They wanna be seen.
Value is
Value.
important in
Yeah.
work and personal, all the life.
All the lives. Lauren, you're amazing. I've loved our conversation. Please tell people find you, to book you or to ask questions or to learn more about you and what you do with play and cure.
There are actually a couple. I have two websites and parallel businesses, if you will. One
Cool.
of them is cultivatorofcuriosity.com, and you can contact me there. I have like a social link there, and that's where I have some workshops. I do lo-fi coaching, and I'm open to lots of things because I'm curious and want to talk to everybody. I also am a COO and founder of a business called This Us Now. That is thisusnow.com. And we are a professional education company who works to help you work with better information and more joy. And we do that through professional development workshops as well as betterment projects, which are tailored to whatever you are doing because every person's different, group of people is different, and company is different. So we want to help you do that. Join us.
Wow. I love it. Okay, one of those websites and, they people can reach you through that.
That would be great. It's all listed there.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of your insight. It's so powerful and also fun because you're fun.
Thank you. It was great. I really had a good time chatting with you. Um, Love to do again sometime, no pressure. But
Hey, girl,
yeah,
let's
thank you
do
for
it.
having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to MarketPlay this week. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway. We're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. Always fighting for the small business. If you liked our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your colleagues. Have a safe week out there, and we'll see you next time.